Step into the super crowd, where dreams take flight. Learn to invest like a pro, make your future bright. Impact investing, changing the game. Crowd from the world, it'll never be the same. Super Crowd Hour, come join the ride. Change the world with us, we're on your side.
Welcome to the Super Crowd Hour, everyone. And in December here, I want to wish everyone happy holidays and certainly a Merry Christmas to those who will be celebrating. We're right in the middle of Hanukkah, so those of you who are observing Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah. We're excited for everyone to enjoy this wonderful season. Today, we're going to be talking about designing a winning marketing strategy for your investment offering. And this is really an important topic. This is really, when it comes right down to it, the marketing is the campaign, right? This is how you succeed. Doing this right is the essential part, and it is the most overlooked part. There are still people operating under the misunderstanding that if you put up a page on WeFunder or Honeycomb Credit, that their community will simply fund your deal. And that is not how it works. The deals that are getting funded have sophisticated, well executed marketing plans. We're going to talk to you today about how you can build your own marketing plan and execute it successfully. So stick around for that. We're going to have a great discussion. We're going to walk you through today an 8-step outline for developing your marketing strategy and demonstrate how you can use that to raise capital from the crowd. And we'll talk about how you can use ChatGPT and other AI tools to help you with this so that this isn't as overwhelming as this project would have been just 2 or 3 years ago. This can be something that you can do. I want to thank Chandan, our producer. Chandan does work so hard. He's been an extraordinary part of our team for well over a decade. He's a great human being, and we're grateful to have him as the producer of the show and an editor on our newsletter and a friend. He's just so much to our organization at the Super Crowd. I want to note that when we talk about money here, we're not your financial advisors. I have deep expertise in these areas, but I don't know your situation. And so you shouldn't confuse our educational material with financial advice. You need to get financial advice from someone else. I want to encourage you to join the Super Crowd. You visit superpowersforgood.com or s4g.com and s4g.biz, or scan this QR code. That'll get you right to our page where you can sign up to join. And there is a perk. If you join as a paying member of the Super Crowd, an impact member, we call it, for $5.95 a month, you get to join the VIP session following this live streamed webinar. If you have questions today during the webinar, though, and in fact, if you are watching the replay, you can still scan this QR code or visit 4sc.fund/question and submit a question. We will get that, whether that's today on December 17th or whether that's in July of 2027, we'll get the email and we'll answer the email. So you can do that right now, whenever you're watching this. Learn too that if you want to raise capital from the crowd with help from AI, I encourage you to check out my book. And you can get this book for free at 4sc.fund/CMS free, or scan this QR code. This book is really quite a popular book, and it really is helping people learn how to raise capital. This is a really detailed guide on what it takes to create a successful crowdfunding offering and execute it well. We've also written a book to help investors become more successful investors. And this is something that I really love to point out. I'm a very active investor. I'm not a wealthy investor, but it's one of the things that I love about impact crowdfunding is that I can build a portfolio of diverse investments across many different industries, all with impact. And I can do that with real human amounts of money, not wealthy people kinds of money. You don't have to be a billionaire to do this. You can be, a plumber, a school teacher, a nurse. Of course, doctors and lawyers can play too, but you can do this with any level of income. You can participate. Some of these investments are as low as $10 right now. I mean, isn't that just amazing? You can get started really quite affordably in impact investing. You don't need to be a bajillionaire. Okay, so right after this session, we're going to be doing a VIP session. And that VIP session is open only to our impact members. So if you're a paying member, if you're paying that $5.95 a month, you are invited to join us for the VIP session. And we really hope that you will. That VIP session is a great way to become a part of, to get your questions answered. It gives us an opportunity to go deeper. You can ask me follow-up questions and we can better understand your circumstances, and I can really fine-tune my feedback for you. So if you are interested in that more consultative interaction, I invite you to join for $5.95 at s4g.biz, and then visit us. If we'll send you an invitation to the Zoom, the private Zoom, and then you can participate with us. So I hope you'll do that. We've got a huge event coming up next month. So I hope you're watching this live or soon before January 22nd to 24th of 2026. This is going to be such a huge 3-day event that we're putting on in partnership with Green to Gold. This is going to be a fabulous event. We'll have live pitches, demo days. We're putting together a fashion show, some amazing speakers from corporations, venture funds, you name it. We've got everyone coming to this event over a span of 3 days. It's going to be fabulous. Don't miss it. Visit supergreenlive.org to register for free today to get all the details. For $25, you can become a VIP and get backstage access and all kinds of networking opportunities with investors, experts, other VIPs, peers. This is really going to be a fabulous opportunity for you if you are operating in or around the climate space. If sustainability is a focus of your business, this is a place for you. I want to thank our sponsors. My gosh, we couldn't do this without our sponsors. How much are you paying to watch this on E360 TV? My sense is you're not paying. That's right. The reason you're not paying is because our great sponsors make this possible. I'm going to share a little message from them. Please consider how you can support them.
Digital Niche Agency is the top investor acquisition agency. DNA has helped founders raise over 9 figures via regulated investment crowdfunding with a 3-pronged strategy using digital advertising, content marketing, and strategic outreach. You can't argue with success, but you can learn from it. Put the best to work for you. Book a call today. We're grateful for the support we've received from Move the Needle with Rob Kaplan and Ridgecrest Herbals, a certified B Corp. We appreciate our co-hosts.
Prepare to be inspired by Devin Thorpe, a powerhouse in impact journalism and social good advocacy. This best-selling author hosts the acclaimed Superpowers for Good TV show featuring global changemakers like Bill Gates. With a readership of over 2 million, his 500-plus Forbes articles have shaped the dialogue on purpose-driven leadership and crowdfunding innovation. A sought-after speaker from the United Nations to Johnson & Johnson, Devin's unique blend of expertise as a former CFO and investment banker fuels his captivating presentations. Please welcome the dynamic and visionary Devin Thorpe, here to empower us all to harness our superpowers for good.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited to share this presentation with you. This is just, it's hard to exaggerate the importance of this. If you are doing a crowdfunding campaign, an offering, trying to raise capital from the crowd under regulation crowdfunding, and thousands and thousands of businesses have done this successfully. They've raised billions of dollars. This works. It's not easy. It's not automatic, but it works. And sometimes this works to help companies who can't raise capital any other way to raise capital. I saw a great statistic this week that shows that companies that have raised capital from the crowd last radically longer, tend to go out of business much less frequently than businesses that don't raise capital from the crowd. I want you to think about that. It builds in a certain element of resilience. So I really want to encourage you to pay attention here. If you are an entrepreneur thinking about raising capital, this is an essential discussion for you today. We'll be talking about designing a winning marketing strategy, and this really is, the vital step. And I've got to tell you, this has to get written down. It has to get digested. It needs to become something that you can look at. The great thing is, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Anthropic's Claude, these are great resources for you. I'm kind of a user primarily of ChatGPT and Gemini secondarily. Both work great. I haven't used Claude from Anthropic, but a lot of people do. These tools are superpowers for you. They are going to enable you to do things you never thought you could do, analysis you didn't realize you could complete. Are they perfect? No. But are people who do this work perfect? No. So you can get, as a small business, insights, strategies, and help that you cannot afford to get any other way. I would encourage you to splurge and spend the $20 a month on a paid ChatGPT or Gemini account. It's well worth the money. So a lot of the insights that I will be sharing today, most of them come from Jason Fishman, who is the CEO of Digital Niche Agency. He is a brilliant marketer, much better than I am. I've learned from him. I'm sharing a lot of his insights with you, layering on my practices of using ChatGPT. But know that if you are looking for help, if you are going to raise millions of dollars, if you'd like to raise millions of dollars, you're kind of out of the range of doing this all on your own. Don't get me wrong. Jason cannot do it all for you. He can do it with you. He can amplify your capacity, but you'll still be very much in the driver's seat. You've got to be successful. So, uh, the key goal here: get it written down. Use AI to help you do it, and even if you're just raising 124,000 from the crowd, with the help of AI, you can really be successful with this. Let's be clear. You cannot execute a strategy that isn't written down, that hasn't been thought through, that hasn't been developed in a meaningful exercise. Just throwing, spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks is not a strategy. And that isn't going to work. You're just going to spend money while you're trying to raise capital. And that isn't a wise plan. So you've got to, establish some key performance indicators, key KPIs. You got to set some metrics by which you're going to be judging your performance as you grow and spend on your marketing campaign. You've got to be understanding what other people are doing. You've got to look at how you'll mitigate your risk. Where do you stop? If it's not working, where do you stop, pivot, adjust, or just stop? There are times when that will be required. There is a certain arc that we often see in a marketing campaign where you'll see the spend is less productive at the beginning while you hone and refine the message. Your marketing spend and your marketing efforts begin to improve results, but there may come a point where that starts to plateau or fall off and your productivity wanes. You either have to reinvigorate it at that point, or if you can't figure out how to reinvigorate it, you may need to pause or end the campaign. So you got to be real. You got to have those measures, those strategies baked in up front so that you're making decisions down the road 3 months from now, 6 months from now during your campaign that are wise and framed in the clarity of a dispassionate moment up front. Okay, here's the 8-point plan that Jason and his team use for developing a marketing strategy. And I just love this. It's so helpful to have a framework, right? So you start with industry analysis, and then you move on to a competitor audit. Then you're going to build a targeted marketing profile for your audience. You're building personas. Then you're going to build out your channel strategy and figure out what you're going to do with your newsletter and your marketing, what you're going to do on social media organically, what you're going to do in a paid way, what you're going to do on the page of the offering page, your own website, all those things. You've got to develop the strategies and incorporate things like webinars. We'll talk about that. You've got to do a creative audit. You've got to look at all the assets that you already have, make sure that you understand what you've got and how that can be adapted to become a powerful tool going forward. We want to look at strategic partnerships and earned media. We'll talk about that. That's so important. You've got to build some projections in on your marketing spend and results, right? You've got to know when you're on plan, when you're not. And if you're not on plan, you've got to be thinking about what are we going to do to pivot? How can we adjust, tweak, refine? And then activation. You've got to actually execute the plan. That really comes down the road, maybe weeks or months after you build the strategy, but it is vital to begin to create this strategy document before you launch your campaign, because if you're building this after, you're talking about really trying to remedy a problem if you haven't done this. So you've got to try to execute this before optimally. If you are in the middle of a campaign and you are watching this for ideas, great. I invite you to join us for the after VIP session. Join at s4g.biz right now so we can get your name in the system. It takes a few minutes for that to process. We wouldn't want you to miss that VIP session because we didn't know you had joined. So join now. Let's talk about the industry analysis. This is where we begin. The industry analysis is going to give you some insights about industry, right? So, how quickly is the industry growing? How quickly is the niche in which you are particularly focused growing? Is that growing more rapidly? For instance, if you're bringing a new technology and you're playing in a narrower niche of the industry, it may be that your space is growing more quickly than the broad industry. You want to get that kind of data. And boy, some of that then becomes great fodder for your messaging as you go forward. And so it really becomes important, but it's really helpful to understand. And the reality is, you're probably in more than one industry too. I think about our business, right? We operate a newsletter, we operate a television show, so we're a media company. We do events, and so we've got a variety of different businesses that are all technically different industries, or at least different niches within the media landscape. And so your business is probably like that too. So be sure to look at each aspect of your business and make sure you understand where you're playing. You might have a technology that would work great for big corporations, may also work well for big governments, right? Those are pretty different marketplaces. So you want to make sure you're looking at everything across the board and understand how that works. Then we're going to do competitor audits. And this, boy, golly, there are lots of applications here. And with the help of AI tools like ChatGPT and Gemini, you can do a fairly robust competitor audit pretty quickly, almost instantly, and get meaningful insights. I did this just last night again as I was preparing some thoughts for today, just to see how good it is right now, what it can do. And boy, it's impressive. It's impressive what you can come up with. So you could identify people in your arena that have recently done a successful Reg CF offering, and you could look specifically for their marketing messaging and how they were successful, what they did on their campaigns. You can look with your human eyes, but you can also ask ChatGPT and Gemini to look for their messaging and understand what they did and find links to it and help you discover it. So you can go back to it, really learn a lot from that. And no matter what industry you're in, there has been someone who successfully raised capital from the crowd in your industry. And so you can copy some of what they did successfully. Okay. You also want to look at people that are closer peers and are just marketing their products and services, their offerings. Look at how they're doing it, regardless of whether they are raising capital, right? You want to understand their market positioning and see what you can learn from that as well. But it realistically wouldn't be difficult for you to get a good audit from 3 or 4 companies that are have successfully raised capital from the crowd in your industry, it wouldn't be hard to then add a broader marketing audit for companies that are close peers, and then 3 or 4 marketing audits for companies that are not really as close, but that operate in the same broad industry, so that they may not be competitors, but they're in that space and you can learn from them. So get all of that so that you can begin to do it. And you can ask ChatGPT to do the SWOT analysis and for you, and you can go through that analysis. You want to apply critical thinking to this, right? You don't want to just take what ChatGPT gives you and treat it as gospel. Apply some critical thinking. Is this right? Right? Is he thinking about this right? You know better as a practitioner and expert in your industry. You know a lot of this stuff, but ChatGPT can help organize the data, analyze the data. You can apply your critical thinking to it, and really, between the two of you, become much smarter. And if you've got a team, bring the whole team together and pool your resources, pool your insights, pool your expertise in all of this to do all of these tasks that we talk about today. So you want to be sure to look at the social media, look for specifically the influencer partnerships, look for their digital funnels. And in fact, if you see that they have a newsletter, a sign up, so, a landing page where they're collecting interested investors or interested customers, sign up. And then, of course, look at all, as much as you can, figure out where they're spending their marketing time and dollars so that you understand all that they're doing. That's the key, right? Learn everything you can. Now you want to build, after you've got the industry, you've got your competitors, your peers, some of the other industry players, you're understanding all of their messaging. Now it's time to get serious about your customers. And if you have existing customers and you have existing investors, they become great proxies. You want to, think about who is the most typical among your real customers and begin to dig deep to understand them and build that profile of a customer or an investor as a persona, right? That's what the marketers call this, right? You want to think about coming up with at least 2 or 3, maybe as many as 4 or 5 personas. Each persona may be different than another, but you want to use those personas in order to define just who is the target investor you want to reach with your messaging. And certainly it's going to overlap with your customers. Even if you've got a B2B product at your client businesses, there is a point of contact. That human being may be interested in investing in your business, even if it is small amounts. So be thinking about your customers as well as becoming investors, and let that overlap in your marketing messaging help you build the business fully as you develop your strategy. So identify your personas of both customers and investors, and some of those will look differently, and they may be entirely independent. And an angel investor who's wealthy may not be interested in a product that serves underserved communities, but maybe be very interested in backing it. So they won't always overlap, but often they will. Often they will. Now let's talk about your channels, your channel strategy. This is a critical area. And there are, we've got on the screen here 4 key areas, but these are examples. So don't limit yourself to this. Right? In addition to meta advertising, there are a lot of other advertising options available. There are all kinds of things, but certainly Google Ads and others that are available, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not limited to what you can do with just Meta in terms of paid advertising. You want to look then at your organic content and figure out what you're going to be putting on your social media, your newsletters, et cetera. You want to develop some plans for tracking the data, right? So that you have a formal mechanism for testing. And our good friend and supporter, Jason Fishman, who came up with these insights, most of them, he has a podcast called Test, Optimize, and Scale. That is sort of his mantra, right? But you've got to apply data to make this work. So you're going to test what you're doing with using data. You're going to look at how your organic content, your newsletters, you're going to compare how they're performing, looking at data every time to refine the messaging, refine the reach, refine the advertising, et cetera, so that you can then tweak. It is to say, optimize, adjust. Sometimes that's going to be a bigger pivot than a tweak or an adjustment. You're going to optimize it. And then once you've got it performing well, you can scale it and pay for more advertising with that messaging. But you want to build into this not only some of your thinking around the marketing messaging, but some of the mechanisms. There are two of my really favorite things that we sometimes overlook, and one is doing periodic webinars. Depending on how much you're hoping to raise, you might do that as often as weekly. If you're trying to raise $5 million, you may want to just lock in that every Thursday night at 7:00, you're going to do a webinar to tell people about your business. And you got to be planning in advance. What are some of those? How do you make that fresh each week? Saw a great one just yesterday, where they do a webinar each week, and they have organized and planned in advance how they will cover specific aspects of the business, and they'll just get granular and explain X, Y, and Z so that people who are interested in the business can come and learn about what they're doing, and then they can answer questions about and certainly pitch them on the investment thesis. Another key strategy that you want to be doing is in this funnel, it's really challenging to get people to invest without meeting you. So webinars really are helpful for people to feel like they have met you, especially if you set that up in a Zoom meeting format where there's true interaction. And then you can also use a Calendly link to give people the option to schedule a meeting with you. Now, you may want to say, we limit this to people who are going to invest or are interested in investing more than $1,000, more than $5,000, more than whatever threshold you want. But if you're doing a small raise, especially, I would encourage you not to limit that. My experience when I was doing my raises, no one took that option. And that was it was the most effective thing I did, was to share my Calendly link with people in emails, on social media, and put that out there. No one asked for a meeting who wasn't considering investing at least $2,500. No one wasted my time to do a one-on-one meeting to invest $100. So it can be a really powerful tool, and I encourage you to explore that. As you're developing this plan, it's important to look at being kind of strategic about how you balance and integrate a plan that incorporates your paid advertising and your organic efforts. You need to be a little bit realistic. There will be exceedingly few people who will see an ad on Facebook, click it, land on your offering page, and make an investment. Vanishingly few. What you really want to do is hook them, get them interested, get some sort of a sign up, some sort of tracking so that you can go back to them, even if it's just to advertise to them some more because they landed on your page. So you want to use all the technology available to you, all the processes available so that you can have some way to track and follow up with those people. It sounds a little bit creepy, but the reality is if you're not using modern technology to help you with those marketing aspects, you are not playing the game at the level where people are successful in their capital raises, really successful, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. They're doing these things and they're doing them well. You want to have this strategy that looks at all of this. And again, I think that webinars and the Calendly links are vital parts of this. They give you more opportunities to get to know people and figure out who is really seriously contemplating an investment and how much they may be contemplating to invest. So you've got to really try to get to know the people who are in that group of people considering an investment. That's got to be a key part of your strategy. Okay. Now, you've got to look at, we're going to do this creative audit. You've got to look at all of your existing assets. And, our business is probably a bad example because we're a media company, and but we have a ton of stuff, but almost every business does, right? You've written a business plan of some sort or variety. You've got a pitch deck. That's some content. You've probably got a Facebook account. You probably have an Instagram account. You may have a TikTok account. You may have a YouTube account. You almost certainly have a LinkedIn account. Look, you want to audit all of that stuff. Go through, what are the pieces especially that got attention? What worked? Gather all of that, copy it, link it, build a table, a chart. Make sure that you have your audit doesn't just take notes, but references, copies, builds, organizes that content so that it can be repurposed, reused, reformatted for future use. But then you want to begin building that content. That'll help you then build a strategy then for your storytelling throughout your campaign. When I got started in this business, I was thinking no one cares how successful you are. And the data has overwhelmed me with evidence that in fact people do care. They want to be part of a successful campaign. And so it's vital to brag about the progress you're making. And I like to encourage people to make those announcements with a tone of gratitude, that you recognize that your community is supporting you. And here's just a little tip of, I'd almost admit this is a tiny bit of manipulation, but I would thank your audience, thank your community for supporting you all the time. And call out some of the people who have specifically supported you with their permission so that you can identify the big investors, the people who are really stepping up, because they all have peers. And if you are thanking your community, recognizing that 99% of them or 99.9% of your community didn't really step up yet, all of them who experience being thanked when they didn't do anything yet are going to feel a tiny bit guilty, and they're going to want to help you more. And so you're going to slowly draw them into the group of those who are seriously considering an investment. They're going to want to learn more. What is this investment crowdfunding stuff you're wanting me to do? And in this, let me just insert an aside here. A lot of the newbie investors will get hung up when they are registering for a first time on an investment portal and they are asked for things like their income, their net worth, and their social security numbers. They're going to be thinking, what business is it of yours? How much money I have? And here's the reality, right? It's the regulations require that kind of disclosure from your investors. Be sure you sell them on the message that this is a regulated marketplace that is designed to protect them, right? Make it a selling point, make it a feature, make it a benefit. Don't let them arrive at that point where they're asked for this data and feel like they're being played, abused, fished, right? That is not what's going on. This is a regulated marketplace. You want to emphasize that it's that data is designed to protect them, and you want to make that a selling point of your offering for your new investors. But then, yeah, you want to use each milestone as a trigger, and your final push at the deadline, that can be tremendously helpful. It will motivate you and it will motivate your investors. It is magical. It's magical if the deadline is approaching, either because you've completed the raise substantially or because that you've got a deadline, your offering expires at a given date, then you need to make sure to communicate that because that little bit of FOMO that creates, that fear of missing out because you missed the deadline, does motivate people. It's amazing how well that works. I've been there. I've done it successfully. Countless successful marketers have done the same thing. It really does work. But you want to celebrate your milestones all along the way. Let's talk about strategic partnerships. And there are so many potential strategic partnerships here. But if you've done a good audit, in your audit of all of your competitors and peers, right, you're going to be able to draw from, oh, this is who they have aligned themselves with. This nonprofit membership organization, this influencer, they got coverage in this magazine and this, et cetera, et cetera. All of that, then you need to be figuring out how you'll apply that, how you'll replicate that. And so you need to be thinking about who are the people, influencers, large and small. These days, everyone has some influence. Virtually every human on the planet has some social media presence that can be used to help you communicate with the crowd. And so overlook no one, look for anyone with a podcast, a newsletter, et cetera, that's in your field, that's relevant. It's interesting. I get, for my television show and a newsletter, I get probably a dozen pitches a day, almost all of which are irrelevant. They're bad. They're not relevant. So as you reach out to people, don't reach out to people who really aren't relevant. If you don't know what's relevant for a podcaster, don't volunteer to be on the show. Listen to the show, read the show, figure it out, use AI to help you, but you've got to figure out who's a match. And there are some great services for pairing you with podcast guests or hosts if you want to be on podcasts. So I encourage you to check out there are a variety of people in that space, and they can all be helpful. But just looking at popular podcasts in your field and using AI to help you find them can be an adequate step. Then you're already paying for that potentially. But all of these things are really super important, right? Every aspect of this, is vital. The reality is that if you want to be, have that validation from a third party, it's imperative to get people talking about you. And so if you can get an article in your local newspaper, that really matters. It's amazing how many people still read the local paper. And it has a certain credibility, especially among people who've had a few birthdays. And there is a correlation between people who've had birthdays and people who've accumulated a little bit of wealth. They may not be wealthy, but they may have a nice nest egg that can be partially deployed for your benefit. So you want to be looking at all those things and trying to partner with everyone you can to get that social proof. And let me be really clear too about something. It is tempting when you are going out to your audience regularly in a variety of ways and telling your story to feel like the benefit of having someone else talk about you is that they reach their audience. And that is good. But there is even more power for you to share that information, that story, that podcast, that television show that you were on with your community to help validate. Remember, if you're looking at your social media followers, for instance, as a definition of your community for just a minute, you may easily have a total of 10 or 20 or 30,000, maybe more, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who are in your social media group. The reality is you'll get 1/1000th of that group to invest. So that means that 99.9% of them will not invest. So your area, your community it's just full of people who are on the bubble, right? For every one that invests, there are 10 who are thinking about it, who've given it just a little bit of thought. They don't understand it. That validation, that third-party validation is just essential to convert your community members who are thinking about it. And so when you get an opportunity to be on a podcast, you get coverage in the local paper, you get on the local news, or heaven forbid, you're on Good Morning America, right? You want to share the crap out of that, right? Make sure that people in your community know you are on the podcast, the television show, whatever. Okay, so share. And I really want to suggest a little strategy because the traditional media sometimes is overlooked when we're thinking about all of this, and that earned media, is that sometimes called, is really, really important. I encourage people to be more strategic and narrowly focused rather than broadly focused. Throwing press releases into the wind, even with paid services, is not super effective. It'll get you a little SEO benefit, not a lot. You want to actually do Google searches, AI searches to identify who are the journalists, who are the podcasters, who are the media experts, who are the television hosts and producers who are covering and working in your space that do stories that are relevant, right? And you want to be cultivating relationships with them much as you would be when you're trying to date someone. That's the closest parallel I can imagine, right? You want to be reaching out. You want to identify that you have read, consumed their content, right? You watch their show, you listen to their podcast, you love it, it's great. You've got an angle that may be relevant. You've got to do that. If you just throw your press release into the wind, you're not going to get coverage. You're just not. So you've got to do more. You've got to use that to share it. Okay. It's vital to have projections. So build out, it doesn't have to be super sophisticated, but you do need to have a model. Now, Jason says from his experience that a landing page, an offering page, can yield up to 2% conversions. That means that out of every 100 people that land on the page, 2 might invest. We have good data that suggests that the average investment across crowdfunding tends to be about $1,000. But there is a tremendously wide range of investments, right? In a typical $1 million campaign, you would have a few six-figure investors that are skewing that average up. A lot of people are coming in with $100, $200, $500, or $1,000. A lot of small investments. So you've got to be planning for that. But in any case, 2% is about a best case scenario. If your page isn't getting 1%, you really need to work on that page. If your page is getting between 1 and 2%, it is worth working on your offering page to look for ways to optimize that. You have to work with your portal, obviously, to do that. They probably will limit some of the changes you can make, because if you make anything too substantive, it would need to go back to you'd need to amend your Form C. But if you're under 1% on your conversions, you probably need to do that. You probably need to amend your Form C, update that website to get the conversions. In any case, you got to build the model. So you got to figure out, if you're raising $1 million, you need 1,000 investors. If 1 to 2% of the people who invest, who land on the page, invest, then you need something like 50,000 to 100,000 people to land on your page. So you've got to figure out where you're going to get that traffic. And that then becomes the challenge, the mathematical challenge. And you've got to then factor in things like, what is the cost per click on average for your paid advertising, your paid media? And how are you going to get clicks from podcasts, et cetera, et cetera? All the strategies you got to think about, put together the whole plan, build a model, and figure out what's going to work. Okay. Your projections need to be somewhat dynamic, because the reality is, when you hit the road and you start doing this campaign, building this out, you are not going to be able to execute exactly according to plan. The reality never matches the plan. 1 in 100 times, it's much better. Thank heaven for those opportunities. But if you're in the 99% that isn't hitting plan right out of the gate, you've got to begin to tweak and refine, which may mean you need to refine the model. Maybe the cost per click isn't 25 cents per click. Maybe it's 50 cents per click. Whew, what does that mean? What do we do? How do we get more earned media to offset that, right? You got to figure out all these steps. So refine, adjust, but build your model so that you can refine and adjust it. And then you've got to bring it to life. The launch, I just cannot overemphasize how important it is to launch strong, because you may never recover from a poor launch. You want to try and have about a third of your goal, a third to half of your minimum goal committed from friends, family, acquaintances, relationships, key investors, before you launch. Because if you launch your campaign and people go to the page and see 0 investors or 2 investors and $500 in the kitty, and you're raising with a minimum goal of $500,000, and that is like investor repellent. So you've got to get your friends, family, and supporters to invest early. You've got to talk to them individually. You've got to game this a little bit, to have some show up right out of the gate, so that you have real progress against your minimum target within the first 48 hours, right? Because if people go to your page, see it empty, they're not likely to come back. But if they see progress, They'll be intrigued. They may invest, but they'll certainly be intrigued. And that's what you want. The key is to get people interested and intrigued so they're following your campaign as you go forward. Okay, so we've been through the whole thing now and kind of walked through the list here, and it really is a great checklist. So let's just review this quickly. You've got to do the industry analysis, the competitor audit. You got to review build your personas, your target market profiles. You got to develop that channel strategy, create the creative audit so you can begin creating the material, and develop a plan for communication, including some of the actual assets you will use when the time comes. If you wait until the time comes when you're actually in the throes, you may not have time. This will overwhelm you, right? The work required is overwhelming. And so I want to encourage you to really be prepared, get those assets ready, work on those strategic partnerships from the get-go. Before you even launch your campaign, work on getting those, build out that projections and the model that you can tweak and adjust as you're going forward to track your progress, see how you're doing, and if you're really on point. And then you got to execute, and you got to execute when the time comes. So that's the plan. I want to thank all of you for being with us today. As you think about how to do this, it really is just vitally, vitally important for your success as an entrepreneur, small business owner. You really can do this. For a small business, you could do this yourself with ChatGPT in half a day to a day. You could put together a coherent plan, start to finish, do this whole strategy, and then be ready for a campaign that you could use to raise $100,000, right? But you cannot be successful without some kind of marketing plan. The people who've been successful have done it. I promise you that. I hope to see you in the VIP session. It'll start momentarily. I want to thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to seeing you next month when we'll have a little more of an investor focus in January. And I look forward to seeing you at Super Green Live too.